right now everybody right now who is like, well, it is what it is. Biden, it's going to be fine. Biden's, this or that, or Trump this or that. Dude, I'm going to be in their face. Every misstep of Biden, I'm going to be in their face, and they are going to own it. They're 100% going to own it. You are going to own this.
Dude, yeah, you talk all that shit. But, dude, the cognitive dissonance level in this country is such that it doesn't fucking matter what they do. It doesn't matter what Biden does. He could run it into a depression. These people will be like, still better than Trump. Still better than fuck if you rub it in their face. They're not going to care because they'll be like, it's the greatest thing ever. And you're just saying that because whatever. Dude, I'm telling you, the cognitive dissonance, it doesn't matter if they're eating out of a fucking dumpster next year. They still not going to say.
That's
you're
why,
right, Josh. You know what? You're right.
That's why I want Biden and I don't know that Biden will survive 8 years, right? Before he's just.
Well, he already said he was a one term. He said he's a transitional president.
Before he's drooling on himself. But I want this to last for 2 terms. I want a full 8 years of this because I want people to suffer. I do. I want this country to suffer, and I want it to suffer to the point where, dude, it's like Denzel Washington in Book of Eli, because that's what it's going to take. Dude, that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take to wake people up. That's just what it is.
And that's kind of like what we've been chatting about all weekend. When you look at it would almost be better for the Democrats to take the Senate because as you saw in Barry's first 2 years, right? Because what's going to happen if the GOP keeps the Senate, there's going to be some checks and balance there. Like it's going to be hard to raise taxes with a Republican-controlled Senate. It's going to be hard to pack the court with a Republican-controlled Senate. But you have one party, and this could go to either party, but you take the Democrats, that'll be assuming they take power, and the Democrat-controlled Senate. Now it's like, okay, now you get to take all your stupid, fucked up policies, go ahead and enable that stuff. And you know what? You have nobody to blame but yourself. And that's what happened in the first 2 years of Barry, which is why it switched over, which again, Trump had the same thing. And so it's like, hey, the truth is, the reality is the answers are somewhere in the middle, and it would almost be better for the cause, for the conservative cause, I should say that, for it to be a democratically controlled Senate.
No, absolutely. You're 100% right, because now they can step back, when they can't raise taxes and they can't, give everybody,
Mitch McConnell's fault.
Free health care. Yeah, it's the Republicans' fault. They're blocking it. Those Republicans who hate brown people, this country needs to suffer. This country needs to suffer for 8 solid years. Like I'm talking about suffer. Depression, the Great Depression era suffering. People need to be standing in bread and soup lines for at least some of the people to realize that Democrats aren't the answer. They're not. The far left Democrats are not the answer. And, you guys, it was Dr. Doom and, and Luke, Luke posted his little silly ass, wishy-washy, day cartoon. I'm telling you.
I think it's going to fucking make a difference. You think
for
it's
some
going to make
people
a
it
fucking
will.
difference?
Not for everybody. It won't make it. It won't make a difference for everybody.
It's not going to make a damn bit of difference, and it.
It will.
Well, you know why it won't.
It will. For
why it won't. And I hate to give
because nobody's going to be standing in fucking soup lines. That ain't going to happen. It's going to be a slow.
That's what needs to happen.
Bleed, a slow drain. Yeah, that's what needs to happen. But it's not going to. It's not going to.
And that's my point. That's what kind of Josh will love this. So as we talk about the national debt, right? Because here's the thing, and I've done a lot more reading about this. It's like the national debt doesn't matter anymore because quantitative easing has become a part of your fiscal policy. And now you are starting to see, or you may see, and you saw it during the Obama years, and it goes even farther. That's why you don't see the soup lines, is because, the government will just keep printing money, right? So, it's just, it's more of a prolonged effect as opposed to, hey man, if the government wasn't pumping in the money, the auto industry would have crashed, which it probably should have, because something else would have risen, right? Something that's a little bit more efficient, something that's not so labor union intensive and this and that, but you never give it a chance to fail. So you never give new methods a chance to succeed. And as you look at the national debt, and you look at quantitative easing, which is just, again, dude, they stopped naming, QE after like QE 15, because it was just like, well, this is just our fiscal policy now. So we'll just continue printing money more and more and more. And that way you won't have folks in the soup line because they won't truly feel that impact. Not like they
So
would.
what are we talking about today?
What do you think we're fucking talking about? We had this thing happen Tuesday.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Whatever.
Oh, dude. It's I think it's I'm on the fence. I'm still formulating what I think about all this, man. And I'm on the fence about how insidious it really is. I mean, I'm like on the fence. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm gonna have to put some thought into this. But I'll be the first to admit during the podcast, man, I was more off on this than I was in 2012. As far as with my finger on the pulse of Joe and Jane six pack out there, you know, I guess I have no idea. I guess I need to go live in Milwaukee, you know, or something. And Milwaukee, Philadelphia, some of these places, Raleigh, Durham, so I can get my finger on the pulse better than it is, because I was off, way off.
We all are. Well, we were. I mean, Josh has said that he was going to get 50 states, which by the time they get done counting, it may actually be 50 states and DC.
Yeah, they're definitely throwing a lot of, you know, yeah, I don't know. I either one of two things. Either I was way off on the mood of the country, given how many votes that Biden got, or there's some hinkiness going on. And I guess it could be a combination of the two. But people keep saying, you know, you guys are looking on Twitter and the Republicans, you know, Chris Christie said it. A few other people have said it. They're like, hey, if you've got evidence, bring forth the evidence. Otherwise, basically they're saying, otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And accept that Biden is the president. And I'm like, well, I'm seeing all kinds of evidence of hinky stuff going on. I mean, there's like video of it and shit. I mean, what more evidence is there? And that's the point. It's like, well, that's not really evidence. Come with like hard evidence. And then there's no hard evidence for them. There's no hard evidence for anyone. It's just like, you guys are being sore losers. Now you know what it's like for Hillary voters back then. It's like, but there's actual evidence. I mean, and fucking Crenshaw, dude, Crenshaw's tweet was like unfucking believable. I'm this is unfucking believable.
Crenshaw's tweet is when people apologize, but they don't apologize. That's what that tweet was. It was the Mitt Romney of defenses.
God, it was awful. It really was. That was Mitt Romney through and through. And it's like, okay, you know, and Roger doesn't like to hear this. And I, you know, YouTube, I guess, is going out on YouTube. But dude, the GOP, they can't keep acting like this, man. I'm not going to vote for him anymore.
No, I agree with you.
I'm not going to vote for him anymore, though. I don't want to be, but at the same time, I don't want to be like these dumb fucking libertarians who voted for Joe Jorgensen. It's like, I don't want to be one of those people. I want to be more like a Mike Malice or something. It's like, hey, y'all system is fucked. I'm not going to participate.
What'll happen is, like, you'll continue to vote for the best candidate, right? Whether it's left or right. But here's what happens. You look at the establishment. Like, I tell you, I've given more money to the Trump campaign than I've ever given to any other campaign in my life.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're going to give the vote because you don't want the Democrat dickhead to win. But at the same time, I'm not going out on my, you know, one, you're not getting my money. And I'm not necessarily going to go out there and advocate for your ass. I'll just go in and express my, you know, my choice at the ballot box and then leave it at that. Hey, good luck on your grassroots movement.
I don't know. Depending upon who they put up, I don't know that I'm going to vote in 2024.
What if they put up Grinnell? I'll vote for Grinnell.
I'll vote for Grinnell. Right, I will not vote. I tell you what, I will not vote for a Cruz. I will not vote for a McConnell. I will not vote for any of the establishment. That, especially the ones that are silent right now. I won't vote for you, and you know what? I will actually reach out to your opponent, and maybe I'll help them. Just that
Crenshaw's tweet was so cringe, dude.
It was super cringe. And man, and Crenshaw's tweet the other day. So I don't know if you saw that one. I think I tagged you in it, but I've been tagging you guys in all sorts of tweets. When Crenshaw tweeted out, he's like, Texas will never be blue. It's like,
yeah, okay.
I got some I got some numbers for you. I have some numbers for you that say otherwise.
Dude, now it's keeping score time because this tweet I gotta take a screenshot. We can talk about this during the podcast, but man, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this tweet and I'm gonna keep it in files. This one, Chris Christie, Ben Sass, and I'm gonna be like, you fuckers are on a list now.
Did you see?
You're on the Luke Jones list.
Did you guys see? I think it was Jack Pasivic's latest tweet.
No,
So there's Jack. I don't know who Jack Pasivic is.
Okay.
Talking about Jack Pasovic?
Pasovic, whatever his fucking last name is. How do you say it? You're such a fucking tool.
Hey,
he said
COVID, man.
What's that?
Fuck yeah, you can chill the fuck. Yeah, I got COVID. You can
I don't
chill
give a fuck about your COVID. You're fine.
Yeah, you do.
You're fine.
You should.
You're fine. Look at you.
I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you.
You're right as the milk. You shut up.
It's fucking cold in here, man.
God, you look. God,
Anyway, I'm sorry, Josh. Go ahead, Jack Pasovic. What did he say?
So there's a rumor coming out of the Pentagon. Don't know how true it is.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
That the deputy SecDef and Esper are already reaching out to Biden to start working with the transition team.
Yeah, I saw that. That sounds, I don't know, but
that right
it
there
wouldn't surprise me.
But before anybody, that right there, that's dirty. If I was Trump, they would be fired. And I found that out, they would be fired today. If I was Trump, I would fire Bill Barr today, and I would fire Chris Wray today. Done.
Well, we'll see what happens for sure. I'm still kind of digesting it all. I'm not freaking out, but at the same time, it's like got to reevaluate some things, man.
Well, why don't we go ahead and kick this thing off? Why don't you do an intro? Let's do this thing.
Me? I can't do an intro. I'm sick.
I look at it. It's there's no more. I don't know what you need to reevaluate. Here's what it is.
Because I can't. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm not going to sit around and be like, I'm going to do this now. I got to have a well thought out, outlook on how. And it's still not done yet. So everything's still not done.
Okay, so Luke is the Republican establishment of our podcast. Where he's going to sit there and be like, well, let's not,
I'm not reactionary like you. Where I say I'm going to do all these things and everything's going to burn down. I'm going to move to the mountains and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then you don't do any of it because, you're reactionary.
He totally just called you boogaloo. He passively aggressively
That's fine.
Called you a boogaloo.
That's fine. I remember calling it, last week or two that Biden, one way or the other, Biden was going to win.
So, I mean, it was, in all fairness, it was a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, so that coin is going to land on heads. Oh, look, motherfuckers, I'm right. Oh, you guys are fucking stupid.
No, I didn't say that. Luke can say what he wants. Luke is the same person who said 20 years ago that Arizona would never be blue.
Did I say that? When did I say
We
that?
have it on the podcast.
I said you're the same type of person.
I said
you're the same type of person 20 years ago, who 20 years ago was like, Arizona never turned blue.
I'll pull the transcript. We have it from 20 years ago.
That's pretty crazy. I don't know. That's a stretch.
Yeah.
That's kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
I'm the same type of person.
I'm going to break it.
Here's the thing, Josh, is I actually follow through on shit. That's why I have to think it through a little bit, not just react. Oh, my dude, fuck, I'm moving to the fucking mountains. Or I think it through, man. I think it through.
Hey, man, I follow through.
But dude, hey, you're laughing at that tweet that chick sent out. I tagged you in it, and she's like, some of the stuff in my Twitter drafts is like Pinochet is like, you need to chill the fuck out. That's what's going on in my head right now. And I have to be careful because the shit going on in my head right now, I'm like, I'm going to have to quit my fucking job, dude, because I can't be a part of this anymore. But then I'm like, well, wait. Okay, wait, Josh. It's like Josh sitting on one shoulder, Roger sitting on the other. And I'm like, wait a minute, Josh, I'm not going to quit my job just yet. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like processing this shit.
You watch Game of Thrones, Luke?
Yeah. Chaos is a ladder, Josh. It's a ladder.
Yeah. No, that's not what I was going to say.
Oh shit. That's a damn fireman's pole is what that is.
Yeah. You remember when Ramsey's got Theon in there and he's got the big sausage and he's looking at Theon and he's like,
yeah.
If you think
that's funny, it's you remember that part.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Did I say it has a happy ending?
Rose-colored glasses.
It doesn't have a happy ending.
Rose-colored glasses.
What? Where do you get that? Are you talking to Roger or me?
I'm talking to both of you.
Because it's all cyclical. Everything is cyclical. You're the one who thinks you're special, and you get to see the end of the world in the Boogaloo. You're not special, dude. This all has happened before, just not the way you see it.
No, see, it's all perspective.
Eyes.
Luke, you're missing it. It's all perspective. If you're in hell, everybody else's perspective is rose-colored glasses. If you're black pill,
you think it's cyclical that it's going to come back around and be on the same plane, but it's not. It's going to come back around, but it's going to be down here.
So it's all everything is all going around. It's all circling the drain.
What is that? Second law of thermodynamics or whatever, and then the one.
But dude, you're special because you live in the one point in recorded history where everything is downhill and it'll never come back up. You're the one person, where you've reached the pinnacle. You and your generation. You're the one that's going to see it all go down the drain, and it'll never come back up. It will eventually. I don't think it'll be in our lifetimes. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you're not special. So stop thinking you're special. When you went warrant, you started thinking you were special. And that's
Luke still got some inner pain because he quit. That's all that is. Hurt people.
Yeah, I did. I didn't just quit. I quit on the NCO Corps. I didn't just turn my back on it. I quit on it.
You threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Fuck them, man. Fuck them.
Hey, it's okay, Luke.
Need to do the intro or what?
Yeah, do the fucking intro.
Hurt people. I get it, Luke. It's okay.
Hurt people. That's so gay. Yag. That's so yag. Oh. All right. Oh, wait. Hold on. You don't got to be quiet. Just shut the fuck up. Hold on. Let me look at something here. You don't got to be quiet. Just shut the fuck up.
Are you looking at the outline or what? Just do the intro.
No. Yeah, I've got a full outline for this. All right, ready?
I'm talking again.
Hey, Canteeners. Welcome to episode 40. That's 40 of CULPER'S Canteen Cup. We're having a real hard time deciding what to talk about in this episode, but I don't know. I guess I'll leave it to Roger to come up with some topics on the fly. But before we get into that, I want to give a special shout out to Carlton Zeus. Thanks for that great intro music. The world's coming to an end, according to Josh. But until it does, we're still going to be playing your music and appreciating you letting us do that. So head on over and check out Carlton Zeus on iTunes or www.carltonzeus.com. Like I said, I just can't think of a single thing to talk about, Roger. Something happened on Tuesday, but I kind of been out of it. Well,
let me look at this outline that you sent us. We were chatting on here before we started the recording, and everybody knows Josh is the black pill guy, and we always pick on him and call him the doomsayer or whatever. But I would tell you, admittingly, that I start to see things more and more from his perspective, and even scaringly, even agree a lot more with him on a lot more of these issues. And before we get into some of the specifics, we got obviously the election, the ballots, and there's 15 different topics to talk about. Here is one thing that I have changed and I've been chewing on this for several days now, and it's I think I'm kind of where I'm at. I'm at the resting place for where I want to be on this issue. But you see all these social media posts. Hey, let's just love one another. Let's hug and kiss and hold hands. It doesn't matter about your politics, which nobody gave a shit about for the last 4 years, right? When Trump was in office, it was, hey, let's burn the motherfucker down. Now everybody's like, kumbaya. You can still love one another. And, it doesn't matter what your politics are. And it doesn't matter, their family and blood's thicker and this and that. And I used to actually believe that. I believed it all the way up until this week. And it's not even the results of the election is what's changed my view of this. I think it's looking more into some of the specifics. So if you had a friend or a family member that was taking about, and when I say taking, I say stealing, call it what you want, that was taking $10,000 from you a year, would you still consider them a friend? Would you still consider them family? If you had a family or friend that was going to take your healthcare options away from you, would you still consider them a family? Would you still consider them a friend? If you had a family or friend that was going to take away some other financial incentives, such as, possibly your 401k, deductions or credits, things with your house mortgage, would you still consider them close family, friend? If you had an individual that was trying to take away your Second Amendment rights, would you still consider that person a family or friend? And so I think this is where I differ a lot of this stuff. They live, a lot of folks live in this fairy tale world where we had this conversation the other day on social media, principles of it. And they talked about this one in particular person said that I didn't vote for Biden. I voted against Trump. And heaven forbid we bring up any type of freaking polling because they've been wrong forever now. And they should just all quit, like Frank Luntz said, which he should quit too. But 49% of the Biden voters said they voted against Trump and not for Biden. And I'll call BS on it because you know what? You didn't vote against Trump. You voted for Biden and his policies because guess what? That's what you're getting. And you can sit there and say family, friends, and we need to kumbaya. The line is drawn. Like you can live in whatever world that you want to live in, and you can have whatever ideology that you want to have, and you can believe in whatever government or whatever principles you want to have. But when that starts to impact me and my way of life, now I have a problem with it. So I tell you, I throw it out there for Josh. I mean, I think I start to see a little bit more his way. But I'm done with that stuff. Like we talked about cleaning up and purging, the social media accounts and even some of my close friends, because here's the fact. If you were out there and you can take offense to it, you can do whatever. If you voted for Biden, you voted to take money out of my pocket. You voted to limit my Second Amendment rights. If you voted for Biden, you voted to take away some of my healthcare options. All right. If you voted for Biden, you voted for late-term abortions, period. And these people, it goes back to, so all you Biden supporters out there, all you Biden voters out there, and especially the Republicans that were Republicans for Democrats. So what policy of Biden's did you vote for? Go ahead and break that down for me, because the minute you take those things from me, it goes back to, the book that I just finished reading that your dad recommended, Atlas Shrugged. I would rather you just rob me. Just rob me and just take it from me, because it's not yours. You don't deserve it, but you're gonna, it's for the better of the people and it's betterment of society and, general welfare and stuff. Well, it's not a tax. Well, you call it what you want. You are taking it from me and you don't deserve it. I would rather you just rob me and just take it, because you know what? Here's the thing. Somebody who is a burglar or somebody who robs you knows they don't deserve what you have. That's why they're taking it. They know they can't earn what you have, which is why you're taking it. The problem with our political system right now is the government believes, because remember, you didn't build that. We all remember that, right? They believe that what's yours is theirs. They believe they have a right to it. They believe they have earned it. And so I tell you, this might hurt a lot of friends and some extended family members and this and that, but you have voted to take resources out of my pocket, and not just mine. When I say mine, it's collective. Myself, my wife, my kids, a couple kids in college, even my dog. Yes, my Alaskan Malamute, who I will probably be voting for as a write-in candidate for 2022. So, Josh, I know it's a little broader of a topic. I guess we can get down into the nitpicky here in a minute. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, I said this. I don't know. It was probably about 2 months ago. I made the comment that people who are voting for Biden simply because they hate Trump hate Trump more than they love their country. And
Absolutely.
the backlash that I got on my personal social media was significant, right? And that's fine, because a lot of people, I'm deeply offended, right? People were, just deeply offended. I was like, okay. If you know me, you should probably not be surprised when I say controversial things, right? I mean, that's not something nobody who knows me should be like, oh, I can't believe Josh said something, said that. It's like we've met, right? But they truly do, because it's like you pointed out. It's like you didn't vote against Trump. You voted for all those things that you said, and you know what else you voted for? You voted for packing the courts. You voted for expanding the Supreme Court. You voted to take money away from me and my family. You voted for the abolishment of the Electoral College, right? Because in 2016, Biden made the comment that the Electoral College needs to be relooked. Okay. Now, is the Electoral College, is Biden going to get rid of the Electoral College? Absolutely not. Right. And So when people say, well, it's going to destroy the electoral college or this or that, it's like, okay, it's 2/3 of the states, right? We all know the process for a constitutional amendment, but the damage that the Biden and Harris can do as president through executive order, that's people voted for that. 70 million Americans. And I'm going to say it right now, and we might lose one or two of our 13 listeners, but I don't think so. If you voted for Biden simply because you hate Trump, you don't deserve to be an American. You don't deserve to be here. You don't deserve to live in this country. You don't deserve to be a part of the most prosperous, most charitable, most equitable country that the world has ever known. You don't deserve it. You absolutely don't. And for too many years, people have gone with that. Well, let's just be kind to one another. Let's just be nice to one another. All the while, the other side, they weren't. Dude, they were in a knife fight. And we didn't realize it. And this whole be kind to each other. Speaking of one of the devils, Ocasio-Cortez just tweeted, and I'm going to read you her tweet verbatim. Quote, is anyone archiving these Trump psychopaths for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in? I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. Why would I have to delete my tweet? Why would I have to delete my tweet saying I support Trump? Why would an elected official want to catalog what I tweet? That's some Gestapo shit. That is some 100% Stalin-esque language. But that's what people voted for. People just voted for that. 70 million of you. 70 million people just voted for that. And it goes back, and I've been thinking about Luke's point, Luke's quote a lot for the last couple of days. When you meet somebody, are those people going to actively order you onto a train? Are they going to participate in it? Are they going to look the other way? Or are they going to willingly get on that train themselves? That's been playing in my head a lot. And you guys, you can call me Black Pill, Dr. Doom, wishy-washy, whatever. That shit's coming. I'm telling you, that shit is coming. It won't be in the next 4 years. It won't be in the next 8 years. But that shit is coming. And people can call me crazy. People can be like, oh, Josh is just crazy. That's just Josh. He's, Dr. Doom, whatever. Our children will see it in their lifetime. Mark my words. And right now, right here for posterity, it's going to happen. So Luke's already like, this motherfucker's crazy. So I give it to him. He get his thought on what Josh.
I don't think you're crazy. What I don't want the audience to think is that we're all having a collective meltdown because of the way the election went. Maybe those two guys are. I don't think I'm having a meltdown. Didn't go the way I thought it would, for sure. But we're not going to be standing on the mall on January 20th screaming and acting all the Shia LaBeouf and all that stuff. It's just, I think all three of us are still kind of processing it, and it is a little shocking, all of it. And I think we'll get into a little bit of it in the course of this podcast, what's shocking and all that stuff. I just... again, I don't think any one of the three of us is freaking out. It's just like, it is quite a shock to the system. I think we're still kind of digesting everything, but I think it's important to note at this moment right now that Trump hasn't lost or Biden hasn't won. It's still just a giant clusterfuck. And that's the problem. I had two personal problems with the way it went. I think it was, I stayed up pretty late that night. I've been a little under the weather. Maybe we can get into that here because we haven't heard anything about anyone being under the weather since Tuesday, have we? Exactly like I said. But anyway, when I went to bed, it was about 6 in the morning local. So it's probably about maybe 5 in the morning. So it's probably, 2 or 3 in the morning Eastern. And I was fairly comfortable with the way things were going. The Chinese yuan had taken a nosedive. They had actually declared Florida for Trump. The way Wisconsin and Michigan were looking, Josh was a little bit worried about Georgia and North Carolina, but I was like, but the way it's going exactly like I thought it would. There's a lot of energy, a lot of voters getting out there. Florida was squared away with their counts of absentee, mail-in, and, people voting on election day. Texas was going exactly like I thought it would. And I was like, this is in the bag, man. I mean, it's not going to be a blowout, but this is in the bag. And what really, I'll go back, what really led me to that conclusion more than anything else really was the way some of the markets were reacting overseas, Eastern markets, especially with the Chinese yuan crashing. I was like, done deal. This is over. It's like, I'm fairly confident. And then I wake up, about 3 hours later, I get up so I did go to bed at 5. I got up at about 8, and it was just before Trump spoke. And I'm looking at the news, and I'm seeing all these places just stopped counting. They stopped counting in Philadelphia. They stopped counting in Detroit. They stopped counting in North Carolina, Georgia, down the line. And I'm like, what is going on? And that's when I started to get kind of a bad feeling. And I was like, okay, this is absolutely going to drag out. Media ratings, but I still wasn't set on the fraud thing. I was like, it's just, there's this cabal of the media and, trying to get ratings. They want to drag this out, so on and so forth. And, as time went on, longer and longer, as the votes are being tallied up and up and up, I'm like, okay, I'm getting a bad feeling about this over the past few days. And then that's when that same feeling I had in 2012 started to creep in. When I'm seeing the numbers, just the sheer numbers for Joe Biden come in, I was like, man, I just did not have my finger on the pulse of how people felt out there. I had the finger on the pulse of how I felt, how, your diehard Trump supporter felt. But I just got to reevaluate things and, really start looking at my news sources and things like that. But I still haven't quite formulated how I feel about all that stuff yet. And I know I've got so much more to say on the possibilities of fraud, how it's gone forward. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are just like, what in the fuck is going on? I mean, the three of us are fairly knowledgeable on how the system works, how elections work, from the moment someone casts their ballot all the way up to, the Electoral College and the representatives that cast their votes. And like I said, I think I'm fairly knowledgeable, but the more I delve into what's going on right now, I realize I don't have the slightest clue of what's going on in the counting stations in Detroit, up in Wisconsin, what's going on in Georgia and Florida. Every state has different laws. There are, different ballots that are being counted this time, that way, and whatever. And I'm a fairly knowledgeable and informed person on how this works. So your average American out there who isn't as informed because they don't have time because they're working in the mill or on a farm or whatever they're doing, they truly don't know what's going on. And it's shaking their faith in the system. And that's the real sad part about this. I got so much more to say, especially with some of the GOP standouts, the GOP that we kind of trusted last week and are showing their true colors to at least me this week. I've got a lot more to say, especially about our boy Navy SEAL showing his true fucking Navy SEAL colors, Dan Crenshaw. And any Navy SEAL out there who's got a problem with me saying that, you can go fuck yourself, because I have had very, very few positive interactions with Navy SEALs. And I'll say this, the way Dan Crenshaw is acting right now, he's living up to what I've seen from Navy SEALs since I first started working with him back in 2002. So he can go fuck himself. And I'm sorry for all the language in this episode, but I'm a little upset with the people that I trusted about a week ago. So I'm going to kick it over to Roger, and maybe we can get into some other stuff.
Well, and you said it right at the start. I'm not angry at the overall election. I mean, when it comes down to if Biden wins, I'm really over that. It looks like Biden's going to win. It looks like he's going to take it. And granted, it's not over yet. I don't know. By the time we get this thing published, maybe it will be. Maybe it'll be over tonight. Who knows? It is what it is. People voted. Biden becomes president. I mean, heck, lived through the Carter years, lived through Clinton years, lived through 8 years of Barry. So presidents come and go, parties come and go. What really makes me angry, and I think we've all stewed over this in the last couple of days, and I think we're all in the same sheet of music with this. It's less about the elections, but it's more about some of the specifics leading up to it, some of the backdoor things going on. And I tell you, the one thing that pisses me off the most, win, lose, or draw, it's the lack of GOP support. Because to me, it's a bigger problem. Nobody except Lindsey Graham, who decided to come on Sean Hannity last night and donate $500,000, which, okay, that's great stuff. You donate that money, but let's not pretend it wasn't a big PR move. Every one of those GOP folks out there, all the way down, your state legislatures, most of them, I should say, ran in some form or another over the last 4 years on the president's coattails. And then all of a sudden, and again, as we go forward, things may change, but especially out here in Arizona, I'm pretty in touch with what's going out here in Arizona. But as things pop up, we're like, wow, this is kind of not right, or hey, we should wait for this, or we need more details, or wait for the ballots to be counted. When the president needed their support, crickets. I mean, I sat here, and we weren't the only ones. There were a lot of pundits out there like, GOP, where the hell are you at? Where's Mitch McConnell? You talked about Crenshaw. You have these high profile personalities up there. Mark Rubio. I mean, all these guys have guys and gals have these cryptic messages they just put out there, but there is no support. And I understand they're not wanting to back themselves in a corner, but you can definitely come out like, look, President Trump, he is the president of the United States. We are all for fair elections. I tell you this, when it comes down, and this is me personally, when I read into it, the way it looks with Pennsylvania is that, oh yeah, by the way, their court kind of legislated from the bench there. Because from what I understand, and I'm no lawyer, no constitutional lawyer, election lawyer, but it looks like the Republican legislature had already set procedures in place, and then the governor tried to change it, and then the court backed the governor. Now, I can't speak to Michigan. I can't speak to other stuff because that gets into some of the voter fraud and this and that. But what really pisses me off up front is just the lack of GOP support. You wanted his support for the last 4 years, and you know why? And this goes back to the bigger thing that I've been saying for years, or for months on the podcast and for years. They just want it the way it was, man. They want to go back to the status quo. And this is the media, and this is everybody. Because make no mistake about it, I will tell you this, and maybe this is some black helicopter thing. When Trump came out and said, hey, Murdoch, maybe I start my own news station. That's kind of weird, because a couple days later, they just prematurely called Arizona blue. Maybe it was premature. I mean, we'll see how the votes turn out. But there are definitely a lot of other states out there they haven't called other than Arizona. So that kind of leads me to believe that, and it's not just an isolated incident. You put a lot of these things together, it's pretty clear to me that the anti-Trumpers were always there. They were anti-Trumpers. But what's worse than that, and I hold them up there with rhinos and the Mitt Romneys, you pretend to be a Trump supporter, but hey, man, when the rubber meets the road, times get a little tough. I ain't got anything to do with that. They were always anti-Trumpers. Because you know why? They got tired of being called out. Because here's the one thing, and we can get into the rhetoric later, because that goes into a little bit of I want to get into what happened in the actual election. But when you look at his actual policies, I mean, Trump was very middle of the road in a lot of things. When you look at the averages and where he was with infrastructure spending, where you look at where he was foreign policy wise, where you look at where he was, as far as economic policy, when you look at where he was as far as government spending, he was a little bit on the left, he was a little bit on the right, and he pissed a lot of people off. And he was the first one to call people out and dime them out. And I shouldn't say dime them out. He was the first one to call them out. Hey, man, you're supposed to be doing this. And you know what? Here's the one thing: nobody out there can say that he was biased in who he called out. He has called out the left media. He has called out the right media. He has called out Democrats. He has called out Republicans. And I tell you, they're pissed off and they don't like that. And they want to go back to the way it was, because it's the Coke and Pepsi wars. Hey, it's not about Coke and Pepsi being number one or number two. It's about Coke and Pepsi creating a barrier to entry that is so great that nobody else can come in and ruin the party. And that's what I believe, what I see is going on right now. And that's what really makes me angry. One thing I want to touch on before I throw it to Josh, and I don't know if you guys are tracking this or not. I just found this out today, and I'm actually pretty shocked, and this scares the shit out of me. So Josh, you mentioned the Electoral College, and man, this goes into I have 5 or 6 bullets, and it keeps touching all of them, because one, people are just dumb. They have no idea how elections work. They have no idea how the government works. And I'm not saying we're experts, but you should have a general knowledge of how this stuff works. And people, left and right, conservatives, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, a lot of them are idiots. And you should probably pick up the Constitution. You should probably read a newspaper every now and then. You should probably read the news, watch the news. But when we talked about the Electoral College and popular vote, and obviously there's this big push on the left for popular vote because I guess they want California and New York to just go ahead and govern the entire United States. And at first, I just kind of blew a lot of it off because we'd sat here and talked about 2/3 of the states, this and that. Do you realize you don't need 2/3 of the state to do that for popular vote? And we're not talking about a constitutional amendment. Either of you guys heard of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact?
Yeah, that came around like 2 years ago.
Right. So let me give you an update on this thing. Basically, what these states have done, these state legislatures have said, we are not going to have our electoral votes go to the popular vote of the state. Our electoral votes will go to the national popular vote. And I'll read this thing through here. I actually had to pull it up because it's, of course, you can see that it's all the left states, but it's, let's see here. As of July 2020, it has been enacted into law in 16 jurisdictions, possessing 196 electoral votes, including 4 small states, 8 medium states, 3 big states. So they talk about Delaware, Hawaii, Rhode Island, Vermont, Colorado, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico. You're starting to see a trend here, right? Oregon, Washington, California, Illinois, New York, and the District of Columbia. So basically, this is their way of circumventing the Electoral College or circumventing the Constitution to where, well, you know what? We don't really need 2/3 vote to amend the Constitution because what we'll do is we'll enact a state law that says it doesn't matter how you vote in the state of Arizona. It doesn't matter how you vote in the state of Texas. It doesn't matter how you vote in the state of Missouri. It's going to go to the national popular vote because, generally speaking, I think there are more Democrats registered to vote than Republicans. And when you just see the turnout, you generally have more folks that turn out for Democrats because of New York and California. That right there scares the bejesus out of me. So, Josh, you can touch on that if you want to, but I want to get your thoughts on the lack of the GOP support, Senate and congressmen and congresspersons for the president.
No, I mean, you were spot on. The only people that I've seen come out in support of the president is Jim Jordan. There's video of him. He's actually, on the steps at one of the ballot counting centers, with a megaphone, actually defending the president and defending the process. So I'll give Jim Jordan that. But by and large, yeah, Lindsey Graham got on there and, it's like, I'll give $500,000 to the defense fund. That's easy, right? That's easy for Lindsey Graham. That's, he's probably got that in the petty cash drawer in his office. But when it comes down to it, especially a lot of the House representatives, Luke's boy, Dan Crenshaw, yeah, man, they absolutely rode Trump's popularity, rode Trump's coattails, and now they're quiet. I remember growing up when I was a kid, my mom said, you find out who your friends are in the hard times. When you're, during the good times, everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody wants to be around you. But, when you need money, you need a ride somewhere, you need a couch to sleep on. She's like, that's when you'll find out who your friends really are. And, exactly. Right now, Trump's finding out who his friends are and who those people, I tell you what, regardless of how this shakes out, Trump will make it his mission in life for the last 6, 7, 8 weeks in office to make their life as miserable as he possibly can.
Now, I hear you can just start an FBI investigation, right? I mean, can't you just do that?
What? Well, I've been asking the question, as have other people, where the hell is Bill Barr at? Where's the Attorney General? Where's the Department of Justice at right now? People's like, oh, well, there's no evidence of voter fraud. Like you said, there's video. There's actual video. There's 2 United States Postal Service workers who have come forward, so they're willing to testify under oath to fraud with ballots. And to me, if you're not going to believe somebody who, one of the workers who works there and says, hey, testified under oath, I don't know what you're going to believe. You're not going to believe a videotape. I don't know what you're going to believe. Right. It's like Luke said before we got started on this, of some, you're just never going to convince people. And that's fine. I guess, but yeah, man, there's a lot of people who, they love that Trump money, they love that Trump support, but when it's time to, get their hands dirty, they're not willing to do it. And it's noted. It is absolutely 100% noted as I sit back and I look and I kind of, take stock of what's going on with the GOP and the party, because Trump, in a way, he re-energized the Republican base, and he shaped it a little bit. Right. He reshaped it, took it off a little bit of the direction that it was headed. There's a big ass Republican base out there now. They were excited for Trump. They love Trump. And they love Trump because he was not the establishment. Because he was not the establishment guy. And these establishment guys right now are proving, and they are just reinforcing why we don't like establishment people. That's all they're doing. So that, yeah, as far as the folks go that, are not supporting Trump, that's, I'm a Forrest Gump it, and really that's all I have to say on that. But, you talk about the, that interstate clause, that is scary. And I remember when that came up a couple of years ago, it was Nevada Nevada was one of the states that really, really pushed it. But obviously it's grown some legs and taken shape. And you talk about the states that are in it; those are all blue states, reliably blue states. Maybe soon you'll add Arizona to that, and and Texas, because those are two states that are headed that direction. And I pulled up some numbers for Texas. And I'll go through them real quick. So in 2000, 2.4 million Democrat votes in Texas, right? So that was 37% of the vote that voted for Al Gore in Texas. In 2004, 2.8 million, 38%. 2008, 3.5 million, 43%. It dipped in 2012, back down to 3.3 million, 41%, right? Because Barry, let's face it, 2012, a lot of folks in Texas didn't care for Barry. A lot of folks across the U.S. didn't care for Barry. The GOP just put up a super crappy candidate in Mitt Romney. But in 2016, it started climbing again, right? 3.8 million, 43%. And right now, as it stands, 5.1 million, which is 46%, voted Democrat in Texas, right? And you go back and look at the numbers, Trump only carried Texas by about 800,000 votes. Now, that's a lot of people, right? When you're talking, you look at a crowd of people, and if there's 800,000 people, that's a lot of damn people. When you're talking about votes, that's not a lot of votes in the grand scheme of things, right? And so you see that. What is it going to be in 4 years, especially as Californians leave California because of shitty Democrat leftist policies and move to Arizona and move to Texas? What is that going to be in 2028? All right, so 8 years.
Californians. There's so many Californians moving. It's fucking immigration, Josh. It's not Californians moving to Texas and Arizona. Gee.
Californians are just part of it. You're correct. I don't know. I know this may come as a shock to you. I know it may sting a little bit because it's Texas.
How's North Carolina doing, Josh? Which way that's going to go?
It's not my home state, bro. That's not my home state. North Carolina, North Carolina, Texas. North Carolina is the Denver. It is the Berkeley of the East Coast.
Slovenia would vote for Trump than people in North Carolina or Florida. Absolutely. Dude, North Carolina is a blue state. It's been North Carolina has an identity crisis. You go to Asheville. Asheville is the Berkeley of the East. It's like Colorado Springs, bro. Man, I can't. When you go to, when you move somewhere, it's on you for that state to be red, man. It's on you. Now, God forbid I get stationed in D.C. next, then I'll never hear the end of it, or Virginia. No, Josh, I cut you off. Go ahead.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, people said Arizona would never, ever be blue. People were like, that's crazy. That's crazy talk when you think about Arizona 20 years ago being blue. But I guarantee you, if people would have said, hey, 20 years ago, one day there's going to be a state that decriminalizes heroin and cocaine, people would be like, dude, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. Oregon just did it. In 8 years, Texas will be blue. Texas will be purple in 2024. In 2028, Texas will be blue. Especially with the mail-in ballots now that we've established mail-in ballots as a widely accepted form of voting, I don't know that you'll ever see another Republican president in our lifetime. I don't know that you'll ever see it now that we've accepted mail-in ballots, because it's easy. I'm just going to send a whole bunch of mail-in ballots out, and it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be fucking Tammany Hall. That's what it's going to be. Bunch of Tammany Hall hucksters. That's all it is. Banana Republic. That's it.
Drink. Everyone drink. Every time Josh says Banana Republic, dark days ahead, you have to drink.
Only going to say it once.
He does bring up a valid point, though, right? Because this goes back to what I was just saying. I'm less angry about the whole Biden, Trump wins, loses, whatever. We've lived through good presidents, bad presidents. But talk about the mail-in balloting, Luke. I mean, this goes hand in hand with what Trump is doing right now, which a lot of people don't see. Donald Trump is employing the Al Gore strategy, where you have to get ahead of everything, because once votes hit the table, it's hard for a court to come back and remove them. So when you look at the ballots, once that's on the table, that's never going away, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's not going away. And we called this, I mean, the faithful canteeners out there, we called this a long time ago, months ago. I remember I remember the last time I think we brought it up. I said something to the effect of, it was 4 months out from the election. I was like, this mail-in vote, they got to get a handle on it, because we're 4 months out. And if the federal government or state government even, it's going to take longer than 4 months. They better be rolling this out now. And they never really did. They never rolled out the procedure. They rolled out the mail-in ballots. That's fine. And maybe, I don't even think we should waste our time, talking about the difference between a mail-in ballot and an absentee ballot, with the chain of custody with an absentee ballot versus you can just mail this thing in and it just goes from your mailbox to the post office to the election with no chain of custody. There's a difference, people. Okay. And I'm not going to entertain that anymore. I'll just say there's a difference. There's a chain of custody with one, and then there's just not with the other. So let's leave that for now. So they didn't roll out. Obviously, they didn't. I think Florida got it pretty good. Josh's home state got it pretty good. I mean, they had it squared away. They got it squared away. They got the results in real quick. And Fox News would not call it. And I was just going nuts. I was like, why are you not calling this? So to your point, Roger, it's like, yeah, it's not going away. It is a mess. I'll hold a little bit of quote unquote faith in the system, say it'll be streamlined more in the future, but that won't make it any better. I'm not saying it'll make it any better. I just think it might be streamlined. And yeah, that strategy of get out ahead of it with the, getting the courts and all that stuff. Dude, I think that the DNC or whoever's running the show, whoever's driving the train, which I can't quite figure that one out, knows that you can't just have one battle in one state like Al Gore did. You're going to have to, in order to obfuscate the issue and turn it into something other than a fight in one state, you're going to have to do it in multiple fronts, which is what's going on with North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So now you've got all these legal fights that are different fights in every state. And the message is they just don't want to accept the outcome of the election. Look at it. Look at all these fights. They're trying to fight against a legit election. And everything's getting obfuscated, and people are, I can't think of the word right now, but they're, there it is. They're conflating terms, they're conflating issues, and saying Trump doesn't want to count ballots. He wants the counting to stop. It's not what he said. When he got up and made his speech, when he said, and frankly, we did win. I mean, that was, and the news just jumped on it. Oh, he just declared himself the winner. It's like, no, dude, you got to listen to everything in context. Everything's being taken out of context. Everything's being conflated. You know what this serves to do? Let's just say that Trump does win all these legal battles in all these states, and he comes out the winner. He gets 272 or something. Well, then he just, it alienates, 70 million people, or how many ever people voted for Biden, and vice versa. If Biden is just like declared the winner, you've alienated without due diligence on all of these issues we've been talking about. You've alienated a half, less than half of the voting population. I mean, it's just this doesn't end well at all. It doesn't end well. It's not being handled the right way, and I think that's where these spineless GOP, bench sitters right now, that's what they're thinking. They're like, well, I don't want to be part of this, and it looks like Biden's going to win, so I'm going to, curry some favor. That's where the GOP always goes wrong. The Republicans think they're going to curry favor with the other side. They're going to curry favor with the likes of, AOC. And I'm not even going to say Pelosi, because I think Pelosi plays the game. I think she plays the game. I think you can curry favor with her. And that's what they're doing. It's just, it's disgusting. And I want to read this tweet from Dan Crenshaw. It's just, we've been calling him out all day. And Josh was taking my name in vain, using my line earlier without citing me in the footnote of his tweet. Pissed me off. But this is what Crenshaw said. He tweeted. Now, listen real close. If Trump loses, he loses. It was never an impossible outcome, and we must accept the final result when it is over. That's the first part. That's his first sentence. His second sentence is, but the unfortunate reality is that there is very little trust in the process, where irregularities have been flagrant and transparency lacking. What a milquetoast, fence sitter, bench sitter tweet. What kind of tweet is that? What kind of tweet is that? What are you saying, Dan? What are you saying? I mean, you're so mealy-mouthed. If he loses, he loses. That's currying favor with the other side and trying to calm everybody down. And then the very next sentence, he's like, but the unfortunate reality is there's very little trust in the process. So what the fuck are you going to do about it, Dan? What are you going to do about it? You're just going to send out tweets like that, try to placate both sides? I mean, what does that serve? And the quote is, I guess it's Josh's quote now, is, well, I guess they're not going to make a movie or write a book about it, so Navy SEALs aren't up for a good fight. If that's the case, there's no movie or book. I guess old Dan Crenshaw is not going to fight, is he? Bitch ass Dan Crenshaw, man, giving my state a bad name. I was all in his corner. I was in Dan Crenshaw's corner. Now he's dead to me, man. He's dead to me. I'm done with you, bro. I'm completely done. But so Roger, why don't you break it down for us? I'm getting a little hyped here. Why don't you break it down if you can? And I'm putting you on the spot by doing this. Break it down like where it stands right now. Because if somebody picked up and listened to this podcast after not having followed the news for a while, they would have figured we're like Patriots fans here. We're like Patriots or Cowboys fans, right? It's like one day, I'll tell a quick story. We're like Patriots and Cowboys fans. I've heard both fans on talk radio the day after a game on a Monday. And I was up in Boston one time, and I didn't catch the game the night before, and I'm listening to these Patriots fans calling in saying, our team, we're the worst in the NFL. We've got the worst coach, the worst players. Brady's past his prime. And I'm like, dude, the Patriots must have gotten killed last night, bro. They must have gotten just whacked. And so I look up the score real quick. The Patriots actually won by like a field goal. And Cowboys fans are the same way. Unless it's a blowout, they're like, we suck. So my point is, I think if somebody picked this podcast up and listened to it, having not watched the news since Tuesday, they would think that Biden won. So that's not the case yet. But Roger, if you could break it down like where everything stands right now, can you do that? Is that possible?
Yeah, I can do some of it. And Josh I think he's got some more news that he can fill in on. But real quick before I get to that. So the Senate Republicans pinned this on their Twitter page. Real Donald Trump has spent the last 4 years standing up for America. We're standing beside him every step of the way. Not sure exactly. Yeah. So you're just wrong because they put out the tweet. And then, of course, you have John Barrasso coming out. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We'll keep fighting for @real Donald Trump. I haven't seen any of these folks. And what it does is it helps to validate some of the claims that he's making. Okay. And I'll go into your question here in a minute, so let me forget. But half of America doesn't even like Donald Trump anyway. And they just think, oh, he's just cooking off. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. There's no credence in this stuff. There's no validity to it. And what it does is it helps to add validity if there actually is voter fraud, which again, we've seen the videos, and I'm not saying there isn't or whatever, but it looks pretty apparent to me. So somebody needs to look into it. But here's what's disturbing to me is that I think his name's Andrew McCarthy. He's one of the, I think he was one of the attorneys. He was on Fox News today. And I'm paraphrasing here or summarizing, but he basically said, yeah, you might find some voter fraud out there. He's like, but let's say you lose by 100,000 votes. So you know what? If you don't find enough fraud to cover the 100,000 votes, then it just kind of is what it is. So that's fine. So, okay. And now I get it. Okay. Out of 140 million voters, if you found one case of voter fraud, 10 cases of voter fraud, whatever. Okay. I get it. I get what his point is. But you mean to tell me that, which we've seen hundreds of videos, and again, maybe some of them are founded, maybe some of them aren't. They definitely, I think they need to look into them. But you look at, so if you're down by 100,000 votes and they only find 20,000 cases of voter fraud, well, you know, it really didn't make up the 100. I mean, that just makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. There shouldn't be one case. One, you know what solves this? Voter ID. Totally another issue. But anyway, the back to what you were saying as far as where it stands. Well, I can speak specifically for Arizona that, so you had early voting. And in Arizona, you could do it by mail-in ballot, which was essentially like an absentee ballot. So you have to go and you have to solicit for it. Or you can actually go in and put in your request when you register to vote that I want to be a permanent early ballot receiver. So on that list, so every election I get it in the mail, I do my thing, I do my signature or whatever. And you can either A, mail it back, or B, go to a polling station and drop it off. And then we also had early in-person voting, which stopped, I believe, 3 or 4 days before November 3rd. So all the way up until that, you could go to a polling location and vote early. At the same time, folks were also dropping in their mail-in ballots at those same locations. Now, I don't know the exact statistics, but from what I've seen and kind of what the pundits are putting out there, especially here in Maricopa County, the amount of early in-person voters and same-day voting was roughly anywhere between 57 to 65% in favor of Trump. And so if you look at the average of those two, from what Trump is down now in Arizona, and with the outstanding ballots that are out there, if you took the average, say you stuck it about 60%, that he would actually have enough votes to not only catch Joe Biden, but surpass him. So then the other piece of this comes in, you know, so count every vote. And these are not, let's not conflate this with Pennsylvania, because each state has their own issue. These are not votes that came in after Election Day. These are votes that were in before Election Day. And those folks that went in person early voting were predominantly Trump supporters. So those votes got counted last, I think for obvious reasons. So that's what they're counting right now. The issue around all of that, besides just allowing them to count the votes before you declare the winner, is declaring the winner, which Fox News did, and I think the AP poll did. And they refused to go back on it. And I'm not going to, whatever, man. Each company does their thing. Each news media does their thing. But you clearly have no understanding of the lay of the land out here if you're calling it that early. And they called it when people were still voting out west. That's the problem that I have. Because now you've got folks, maybe you're a Trump supporter in California, maybe you're a Trump supporter in Washington, maybe you're a Trump supporter in Oregon. And it goes beyond just being a Trump supporter because you have down ballot voting, right? So maybe if you're out there and you're like, holy cow, he just lost Arizona. It's over. This is done. Then maybe you don't go vote. And then not only is it impacting just the national election, but you're also starting to impact the down ballot candidates, specifically Republican, which, by the way, it looks like down ballot across the board. It's another whole topic. It looks like, you know, there was a red wave down ballot, not necessarily the blue wave that they were looking for. So when you look at Pennsylvania, you're looking at, from what I understand this, and some people can poop all over me and come back and correct me, the legislature had said that you can receive ballots up to this day. And I actually went through and read, dude, it's like reading Army regulations. I tried to read the Pennsylvania like election guidelines, and holy cow. It's like, okay, so section 530G specifically lays out the timelines. So I go look for 530G. Well, 530G is not even in that document. Like, you have to go to another document to find the 530G. And of course it says in accordance with 230F14. And then, you know, so you have to do all this searching. But anyway, long story short, what it looks like is the Pennsylvania legislature said, okay, you have to receive it by this time period, Election Day, because I think the Constitution actually says that, if I'm not mistaken, that you actually you cast those votes on election day. So they set the guideline. The governor and I believe the Secretary of State said, no, we're going to extend that guideline because of COVID. And the GOP said, hey, you can't just do that. We have legislature here. So it didn't go to the Supreme Court. It went up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, where they came back and said, yep, the extension's granted. Now, it did go up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court didn't rule on it. What they said was, and this was smart on them. Hey, you know what? What you need to do is segregate those ballots. The ones that came in after Election Day, you can count them, but segregate them. That way they can be removed. And that's a smart move on their part, because that's the problem with a lot of this. And this was the Gore strategy that we talk about. Hey, man, once the votes are counted and they hit the ballot, you're not going to remove them. Well, at least here in this case, there is a chance that several 100,000 votes or whatever it is can actually be removed, because guess what? You didn't vote on Election Day. Your vote wasn't in. So how long does this thing go? I mean, everybody says every vote count, and I want every legal vote to count, but we called this back in the day with the mail-in ballots. Some states had already been doing this for years and had a process in place, like Florida, and they came out super fast. You've got other places that haven't done this, so you're trying to get all this set up in 3 or 4 months. So what, can they count for the next 6 months? Does it go 7 months? If you find a ballot 8 months down the road that, oh, by the way, here's a batch of 1,000 that's dated November 3rd. So can we count these now? Do we go back and change it? I mean, you have to have some cutoff, and those things were in place. When you come to Michigan, Georgia, I think even Minnesota, I think that's more the fraud cases they're talking about. And again, I disagree with the decision maker, and I can't remember his name, but he's I think he's either the 1 or 2 IC, the decision maker for Fox News, because they actually asked him, hey, how do like 130,000 votes that are all Joe Biden come in? I mean, like that statistically doesn't even make sense. Like that's mathematically impossible, right? And here was his answer. Well, we might be, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is pretty damn close. We might be divided as a nation, but we are unified as communities, and most communities vote alike. So you mean to tell me you've got a community of 130,000 registered voters that all 130,000 registered voters voted for Joe Biden? That's like statistically impossible, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. You're going to have one person show up that's like, no, I'm voting for, Jorgensen or Snuffy the elephant or whatever, Kanye West or whatever, whoever the hell's on the ballot. I could see if it was a community of 50. I could see if you were in Alaska and they're bringing in the ballots off a sled from a town of 42. Okay, yeah, they might all be Republicans, or maybe they're all Democrats or whatever. You're never going to convince me that anything over 100 is going to be, dude, you can't put 5 people in a room and decide what to watch on TV, much less have everybody vote for the same guy for president. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. I just don't believe anything over 100, even anything over 50 that you would say out of one. You can't go to my neighborhood. And I would say the listeners out there, and you guys, I mean, let me know if I'm crazy. You can't go in my neighborhood and find 48 votes in here where everybody's going to vote the same. Right? I mean, it's going to be a change.
You're 100% right. There are 53 houses in my neighborhood. I can tell you, nobody in our neighborhood voted the same. There were not 53 houses that voted for Donald Trump. There were not 53 that voted for Biden, that voted for Jorgensen. It is statistically impossible. And some other things, right? Some other things that just point to irregularities. And here, I'll say this before I say that. And I know I can speak for you two. Hey, man, if it's a fair fight, and Trump loses, then Trump loses. And on January 20th, Biden's inaugurated, and what? That's my president.
Badass.
Joe Biden's my president, and I don't want the plane to crash because I don't like the pilot, right? And I know that probably, that contradicts what I said earlier about this, this country for what they've done. But at the end of the day, if it's a fair fight, then it's a fair fight, and it is what it is, right? I can accept that. I can accept a fair fight. What I can't accept, and what I question is the fact that Biden underperformed Hillary and Obama in every major city except for Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Wisconsin. Every other major city Biden underperformed Obama and Hillary. And I'm looking at the numbers here. How does Biden underperform? How does Biden underperform Barack Obama in 2008? How does that happen? But he draws more votes overall than Barack Obama in 2008. You're telling me the guy who couldn't pull 1,000 people to a rally got more total votes than 2008 Barack Obama?
Nope.
No, I don't buy it. The GOP lost 0 House races. 0. So you're telling me people went in the booth and they bubbled in Biden and Harris and then voted Republican down ticket? No, I don't buy that. I don't buy it. You're telling me, like Roger, like you said, Roger, those Biden dumps are 100%. Those ballot dumps are 100% Biden. 100%. No, I don't buy it. They found 14,000 ballots in Virginia on a thumb drive, and I don't know how Virginia does its voting. I don't know how they store votes. That they found that 24 hours after election day, and they're like, "Oh, we overlooked these because we thought these were provisional ballots." And they're on a thumb drive. One, why the hell are you? And this is from Fairfax County, right? And for those of you who don't know what Fairfax County is, that's Northern Virginia, right? That's Mount Vernon, everywhere in there. So you're telling me, one, you keep ballots on a thumb drive? All right, 0 automatically. I'm questioning that. And 2, you're telling me 14,000 ballots were all 100% Joe Biden?
And that was one of the last counties to report for Virginia.
Yeah, I'm absolutely 100% questioning that. And some other news, because I'm keeping track of Twitter right now. So some other news. All right, this is just out of Michigan about 20 minutes ago. Antrim County in Michigan has flipped to a win for Donald Trump, and I'm going to read the tweet. All right, and this is from Michigan's election officials. Antrim County flipped to a win for Donald Trump after an election software glitch was fixed today. Revised totals now show that Trump won by an estimated 2,500 votes because of a software glitch. Why did the software glitch? Why did it go against Donald Trump? Why wasn't there a software glitch against Joe Biden? Why did Joe Biden carry every city in these states that there's some questions about, but he didn't carry it? He underperformed in every other major city.
So quick question on that. Because I actually tweeted something on that along those lines. Is it me, or is it seems to me every election I can recall, it's always the Democrat votes that come in at the end?
Yes. They need to know. I mean, they got to wait for election day to see what the spread is, and they got to figure out what they got to cover. So you go to Miami, right? And I'm going to use Miami-Dade, out of my home state of Florida. Miami-Dade, that encompasses downtown Miami for those who don't own a globe. It has been blue ever since I can remember. Trump pulled the most Latino votes out of Miami-Dade than any other Republican ever has. 450,000. What's significant about that is those Latinos down there, they are Americans of Cuban and Venezuelan descent. Right? So again, for those of you who don't read the news or don't understand, why is that significant? Because they know what the Democratic Party brings. They know the Democratic Party brings socialism, and that shit is fresh in their mind. The unfortunate part is that those are the older generations, at least for the Cubans, right? And so they don't have a whole lot of election cycles left. Luckily, there's a lot of Venezuelans who, Maduro is still very fresh in their minds, to pick up that torch. But again, you're telling me that the Republican who pulled the largest minority vote overall throughout the country did it, except for in states where that are contested right now, that not with everything else, if it was just that on its own, I'd say, okay, yeah, like there's probably nothing to see here. But with everything else put together, you can't tell me that you can't tell me that there aren't issues. And and I'll say this, and I'm going to shut up. Regardless of who goes into office, one of you guys said it before. Regardless of who goes into office, who comes out as a president in this thing, the real loser is the American people. The loser out of all this is the American people, because I think, as Luke pointed out, for those folks who don't follow this on a daily basis, for those folks who are out there, in the mill, in the fields, just working, their faith in the system is gone. And that's what, one of our things that makes us uniquely American is our election process and our peaceful transfer of power every 4 years, right? That makes us uniquely American. And when you destroy that, and when you lose faith in that, you lose faith in Americans. And that absolutely breaks my heart, right? Because once it's gone, once that faith is gone, it's like trust. Once it's gone, it's super, super hard to get back if you ever get it back. And that's the bitch of it. That's really what this is going to end up as. A lot of Americans have lost faith in the system, and we've lost a piece. We've lost a piece of us. And that's the Greek tragedy in all of this. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw it over to Luke. He can pontificate for us on whatever's swirling around in his head.
Keep going. Keep talking. Keep going.
You got nothing else?
No, we had a lot of good things going there. The past 4 years, I thought, or not quite 4 years, but almost. I mean, I thought Trump was doing a pretty good job. Sure, people could poke holes in that, on the other side, and even on the conservative right Republican side too. But it sure seemed like there was a lot of good stuff, a lot of good momentum going forward. And perhaps I was being a little bit rose-colored glasses, thinking, man, I mean, I can see some of these accomplishments, especially in foreign policy. I mean, why can't other people? But that's neither here nor there. It is what it's going to be. But I'm going to break it down one last time, Barney style, on what our strategic competitors try to do when they quote unquote influence the elections. And influence the elections is not it's not a good term. Their ultimate goal, and I'm talking about Russians, Chinese, Iranians to a point, their ultimate goal is not for a particular candidate to win. They do not give a shit who wins. They won't be able to control them. And that's some Manchurian candidate nonsense. That doesn't happen in a country like the United States with the security apparatus being what it is. You're not going to be able to angle it to where your candidate, the Russian candidate, wants to win. That's not what they do. They want to undermine faith in the system. That's what they want to do. That's what, Josh was saying, Roger said it, I've said it. The faith in the system, one way or another in this election, the faith of the system is going to be diminished. So were they trying to do that in 2016? Absolutely, they were trying to do it. But this time, it doesn't seem like they even needed to. And that's the real tragedy for me. And maybe they did. Maybe they're just super good and they engineered all this. I don't believe it. But they didn't need to, man. We did that on our own. And when I say I'm trying to process this and, I'm trying not to, spiral down into an existential crisis, that's what I'm talking about, is that we have done this to ourselves. We have, whether it's the media conglomerate, the DNC, the RNC, whoever it is, we did it to ourselves. I don't believe that the Russians engineered this plan and it executed just right. No, we've done this to ourselves, and half the country is going to be disenfranchised. And that's just the bottom line. That's just the way it is. Let's say you're a prospective voter, and you were really thinking about voting this time, but you just didn't get around to registering. You're just a normal Joe. You're going to vote Republican or Dem. It doesn't matter. But you were on the fence on whether you're going to vote, but you didn't. And you were thinking, I'll do it next time. I didn't register. I'll do it the next time because I want to be a voter now. How do you think that person's feeling right now? They're not going to vote next time either. They'd be like, nah, fuck it. I was right. I was right not to vote. It's just, we've done this to ourselves. I'm like, okay, how do I go forward from here? You know, do I get more involved, to get less involved? You know, do I crawl into my little shell and move to the mountains like Josh is always talking about? So I'm still feeling that one out, you know, still processing. But again, it's not over. We'll see where it goes. But I just don't see a happy ending when it comes to people feel about the process right now. And what's really bothersome to me, it's you know, I've always said this, it's like at any given time of the day, if you, an American at any given time, if you think you're doing everything right, you're Roger's sitting there playing Call of Duty, you know, petting his dog or whatever. There are so many laws at the local, state, and federal level. There are so many laws. You're probably breaking a law at any given moment of any day. Some code or something, you're walking on the wrong side of the street, you spit, you didn't know that the city code says you can't spit in a public park, you're probably breaking a law. So where I'm going with this is, I think what really bothers me is, you know, you dig into these election laws in different states, and you got to wonder, I mean, are the laws so complex that the system can be gamed without even, you know, committing fraud? You know, is the system that broken? And, you know, part of me thinks, yeah, I think the system kind of is that broken in some states. You know, I mean, any reasonable person can watch what's going on in the news. I happen to watch Fox on election night and the next morning, and I'm not a math whiz or anything, but I could definitely see there was some hinky stuff going on in the way they were reporting the numbers. You know, like you're looking at, you know, Virginia, for instance. So let's don't even take Virginia. Let's take Massachusetts. Okay, Massachusetts is going to go blue. Everybody knows that. But let's not call it when 0.5% of the votes are in. You know, that to me, it's like, okay, no, let's wait till all the votes come in. Let's tally them all up, and then let's say it. But no, they got to get those out of the way so that people won't turn it off and just say, okay, I'll just check back tomorrow, because we're obviously not going to know for sure where Massachusetts goes. No. What Fox did, and I'm sure all the other networks did it too, is they assumed every single state that they thought was going to go red or blue, and they focused in on all these states we're talking about right now. That's what they did, like a reality show, to keep people tuned in. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, this is the media's wet dream, dude. They are so happy that this is going on because everybody's tuning in. What's happening next? It's like a reality show. It's like, you know, I have never in my lifetime, and I'll have to do some research on this, when did they ever stop counting? I mean, why do you stop counting? They stop counting so it can bleed over to the next day. You know, I don't know. It's a horrible tragedy. What's going on right now? Roger, what do you think?
Well, because they clearly stopped counting because they weren't prepared, because they didn't know that November 3rd was election day and we were going to elect a president that day. Well, in theory, because it only comes around like every 4 years or so, give or take. Right. You know, and you said something that's, that really hit home. So I went out with my family, to vote. We all did in-person voting early. And my wife, my daughter, and my son and myself. And for my son, it was the first time that he voted. And I don't want to put him on the spot. Well, I guess I can, because he doesn't listen to this anyway. But so he voted, and he only voted down ballot. He didn't vote for the president, and he didn't vote for the Senate. He is one of the ones, or he was one of the ones that, well, you know, I don't think Trump's a good guy. Well, okay. And we've had the conversations. I'm not going to belabor the point, but he fell into that camp. And then I kind of, you know, it's tough because I want my kids to make their own decisions. So I really didn't beat him up on it. I was just like, hey, look, you just got to vote on people's policies, and that's just what you got to do, and kind of, you know, leave it at that. Well, my wife took it to another level, which my wife is not overly in tune to politics, you know, as much as we are. She's well above probably your average person out there, but not as in tune to it as we are. She had a couple Buffalo Traces that night and teed the fuck off, right? She's like, you're an embarrassment. Your ass should have been out there voting. You should have been Trump. Next time I'm taking your ballot, I'm going to vote that shit myself and turn it in, right? So she was pissed. And as I discussed with him, I said, fine, you know, and again, I wasn't trying to beat him up over it, but it was like, hey, son, elections have consequences. It's like, so when your taxes go up February 1st, because he got his new job as an electrical or electrician's apprentice, I'm like, I don't want to hear you bitch about it. When they come to take your gun rights away because he's 18 and he wants to carry, like, I don't want to hear you bitch about it. When, your health care goes up, which my daughter has to start paying in December on her own, like, I don't want to hear you bitch about it because you chose to not even take a side and vote. It's like, hey, you might not like the individual, but it's a starving person with a plate of peas and a plate of spinach. You don't like either one. Well, guess what? You're going to eat one of them. You eat the one that you don't like less, the least. And eventually you're going to probably eat both of them anyway. But what's really disenfranchising about all this is the next day and a couple of days that he went to work, a lot of his coworkers are really involved in politics because they see it. They see the money in their pocket. When I started off this thing with my little monologue, all pissy about taking money out of my pocket and this and that. So the average tax decrease across the board was about 12% because of Trump's tax cuts. And for lower income families, it was even more. I think if memory serves me correctly, it goes from about 16.5% all the way up to 4.5% tax cut if you made over $1 million. So every single family member, well, I shouldn't say every, that is across the board. Obviously, you have some that depending on the situations, but the majority of folks out there saw a tax cut. And so they were really in tune to this stuff because this is, as we know, we were both young Joes in the Army. Hey, that extra $20 is probably beer money on Friday. That extra $20 means I'm going to the Sizzler or whatever, right? So now my son all of a sudden was like, wow, this really does have an impact. I said, yeah. And I said, it has an impact because you say, well, my vote doesn't count. I told him, I said, hey, do you realize the 2016 election in Arizona was determined by one vote per district? You saw, Georgia? And I don't know what it ended up at, but in Georgia where they have the one guy where they have the runoff election. And they were like, he is at 50.0.
So right? They're about to lose they're about to lose. Well, the Republicans are about to lose a Senate seat in Georgia. It was either Georgia or North Carolina because there's more ballots coming in, right? More ballots. And like you said before, there was 100% Joe Biden. Those 100% votes are now favoring his opponent. So we may lose a Senate seat that we thought we won.
Yeah, of course, because there are still people voting. I guess you can vote, November 6th or 7th or 8th or whatever. But back to my point.
It's election week, not election day.
Election month, and back to my point, like Luke was saying, with my daughter being involved in it, my son now, he's really in tune to it, especially over the last, he sits there on the thing, he's reading the news or whatever. And what's crazy about it is I was never that into politics at that age. And when I look at his friends and I look at some of my daughter's friends, they're really into this stuff. It's like, wow, you really have a young generation that is informed or trying to be informed, and they're engaged and trying to be engaged. And then he said something to me the other night. He's like, Dad, this thing's all rigged. I don't even want to vote. And it goes exactly what Luke was saying. It's like they just lost faith. It's like we pushed so hard to get him involved in this thing. We finally cracked that nut. He's involved. And he's like, wow, man, I really should have voted. I really should have gone back and rethought that. And now you have all this stuff coming on with, Dad, why are these... he's the one who asked. He's like, really? 100,000 votes? That? And he's an 18-year-old boy, right? So he's not, he don't give a shit. He only went to the ballot because they put marijuana on the ballot. He's not a Republican, Democrat. He could really give a crap. It's like, Dad, really? They brought in 100,000 votes and they were all for Joe Biden. He's like, how is that even possible? Like, I know. And then it gets to, I don't even know if I want to vote because it doesn't matter. And that's the true crime of all this. That's the true crime of all this, because you have a youth out there that I think are really trying to get engaged. And it's extremely disheartening where they say, hey, it's just not worth it because my vote's not going to count, because you're just going to put 10,000 more votes on an Excel spreadsheet on a thumb drive and be like, oh yeah, I forgot this. Go ahead and plug this in and tabulate this. And that's the problem with this whole thing is they keep saying it over and over and over. And it's to the point where people, they gloss over it. It's transparency. And I don't want to get into all the rhetoric they're talking about with observers being in, out, yada, 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 whatever. I disagree with what the judge said. You're there to observe, not audit. No, they're actually there to audit. You call it what you want. It's the matter. You're there to audit. I'm there to make sure that you're counting your shit right, regardless of who it's for. And if you are truly into transparency, then why not open the doors up and say, hey man, if Sleepy Joe Biden is truly more popular than 2008 Barry, then I'm opening the windows, I'm opening the doors, and I want the world to see it.
Yeah,
Luke's got a point.
No, I'm just agreeing with you, man. I'm like, yeah, you're 100% on point, and I am for the record, you listen to AOC because for the record, because now everyone's keeping lists. For the record, dude, you want to have 50 Dems in there, 50 Republicans, and that one dumbass Joe Jorgensen representative in there looking to make sure, auditing to make sure every single one are being counted the right way. Freaking fine, dude. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah.
But the second you start putting up, the big sheets of whatever that guy was putting up, drywall, so that people cannot see into the I mean, come on. How am I supposed to believe something hinky is not going on? I mean, that's what they do in communist countries, man. That's what they do in Belarus. I mean, come on, man. It is an audit. It should be an audit. And I can't leave Dan Crenshaw alone. I can't leave it alone. You know, Josh read out the AOC tweet earlier, I think, right? Josh, you read that out? Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and people that is going crazy. Her tweet is going crazy with people's like, yeah, bring it on. Yes. And, you know, the guy that's in charge of the Trump Accountability Project is on there saying there already is a list. We're keeping track. And they're going all the way down to the donors. So guess whose name is on that list? I mean, every donor, that's public record. And they're going to put it on there and they're going to start messing around with it. Hey, Dan Crenshaw. Hey, bitch. Why don't you get up and say something about that? I haven't seen you tweeting about that. And yes, I do follow you. That's the kind of leadership we need. And I don't care that AOC's on the left. I care she's a communist. She's a communist. And this is where I get all hyperbolic, and not even hyperbolic. It sounds hyperbolic, but this is where I start talking like Josh. It's like AOC will not hesitate to put you on a train. She is sitting there saying, we need to compile a list and make these people accountable. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't want anybody on my side saying that, because that's straight up fascism. That's communism. They're going to take you out. And if you don't want to be all hyperbolic about the train, well, what they will do is they will blacklist you on all these social media platforms. They're going to look at, people are going to start looking at, let's go to, I don't know if we want to hire this guy. Let's go onto this list and see if he's on this, he or she's on this list here. It's going to have repercussions. You can't have people like that. You can't have people saying stuff like that. So, hey, Dan Crenshaw, why don't you stop being all mealy mouth? Not just him. I'm going to go down the list, man. You want to brand yourself a leader? Even though you're not a leader, you're a representative. Now's the time to represent. Now's the time to be that so-called leader, because that's how so many people see them, as leaders, not representatives, and actually speak out and say something, because this rhetoric is getting out of control. And AOC is not the only one. I mean, there's all these people feeling empowered right now, and the election's not even freaking set. It's like you're really seeing people's true colors right now. And that's what I'm weighing out, Josh. I'm not weighing out how I'm going to be mealy mouthed for the next 8 years of the rest of my life. I'm weighing out how am I going to react to this. I'm going to be ready for it. That's what I'm thinking.
Can I yield my time back?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll have to stopwatch.
No, you know why? You know why he doesn't care? You know why they're not going to say anything about it? Because these are the same people that sat by and said nothing in 2008. When Barry came in and they started going after government employees for stuff they did in the last administration, right?
Yep.
Where were they at on that? I mean, it was the same thing. So it's like, no, they don't care, because they're part of the system. They want the status quo. They want to go back to the way it was, the good old boys, and they want to get Trump out of there. They don't want to be called out. Hey, heaven forbid you actually have to stand up for something you believe in.
Nope. No, you're 100% right. And like that whole accountable piece, I'm accountable to two things. I'm accountable to my family, and I'm accountable to Jesus Christ. That's it. I'm not accountable to anybody else.
Oh, see, there you go. You threw Jesus Christ out there, so now we're not going to be on YouTube, and Apple's probably going to pull us.
Okay, so
and Spotify. There we go.
I'm sure Josh's boss won't mind when he cuts out of work or shows up to work at noon. He's not accountable to his boss at all. Fuck that.
I'm not accountable to my boss, because I can quit that job any minute I want to. So I'm not accountable, right? I'm accountable to my family, and I'm accountable to my Lord and Savior. Okay. That's it. That's only two.
So Josh is not going to pay his taxes next year. All right. Got it.
Oh God, you were such
a stooge. Paying my taxes anytime. I'm fucking with you, dude. Trying to
So let me throw out the last topic here. And this is a broader topic, and I've actually been giving a lot of thought to this last couple of days as well. So put aside the however many ballots are coming in and on thumb drives and software glitches and the water pipe busted in Atlanta somewhere or whatever in the hell is going. when you look at the broader Trump strategy, I really try to take a look and say, okay, why did he lose? And one, I mean, he's at 69 million votes. I mean, he got a lot of votes, but why does he lose? If he ends up losing, and you look at the different states and this and that, and I've got a couple of different theories, and I'll just throw it around real quick. Started off with, although his policies, I believe, like I mentioned, were really, if you take the average, put him kind of in the middle. His little left, little right, so you balance it all out. He was pretty much in the middle. His rhetoric never went to the middle. And I think when you look at, specifically that comes to mind is Bill Clinton, when you look at the difference between his first term and his second term and why he was elected his second term and what he did, he moved from the left to the middle. When you look at George Bush moving from the right to the middle. Now, it's not a whole lot of movement, but there is enough there that even Newt Gingrich, his claim to fame is balancing the budget, which they never did. And we can get in that to another episode because there's a difference between public and private debt. But even his claim to fame is working with President Clinton to balance the budget. So I think my broad swath here, and Josh, you can add to or take away or whatever, two things. One, as far as his rhetoric, Trump failed to move to the center. Even though I can't stand Pelosi and this and that, you have to show at least the people that you're making that attempt to work with the other side, because it does bring a lot of voters. And then the second one was a strategic flaw. I'll tell you right now, I've stolen this from the pundits on TV, but while the GOP and Trump and the other Republicans were bitching about mail-in balloting, there were millions of Democrats out there sending in their votes by mail. And we're not talking about absentee ballot. We're talking about just mass mail-in balloting. And so I fear that Donald Trump, and maybe you don't have to embrace it, but you can't make your base so scared out of it that the folks that aren't diehards that get out there to show up at the polls that would have voted for you by mail don't vote at all. So there's no telling how many thousands of votes from that guy or gal that just didn't make it to the poll, the Cheeto Eater video game player that was a supporter of Donald Trump, but just didn't make it to the poll. The line was too long, didn't early vote. I mean, I would venture to say he threw away hundreds of thousands of votes that probably supported him, that maybe if he would have embraced, and again, you'd have to craft that message, but if he would have embraced that message a little bit and crafted a little bit better, to not completely distrust it, that maybe you get enough votes anyway. Now, I get it. There's two sides of that, because if you don't completely discredit it up front, then maybe he's not able to have the lawsuits that he's having right now. But I think maybe if you do that to begin with, maybe you're not in the position that you're in right now with those lawsuits. So that's kind of my final thoughts on it before I kick it to Josh. And I think just to summarize what he said earlier, at the end of the day, regardless who wins this thing, if Vice President Biden wins this thing and he becomes President Biden, he's an American president, and I'll support him and support his policies. Or support, him as the American president. May not necessarily like his policies and can obviously disagree with them, but I think you'll definitely see, hopefully you'll see a different, you see a little different pushback from the right than you did from the liberals on, during Trump's 4 years. I don't think we're going to be burning things down and ripping down statues and, throwing bar stools through windows or whatever. But back to the Trump strategy.
So self-fulfilling prophecy in the cup. Roger and Josh don't want to bring it up because their prophecy was, as soon as November 3rd happens, COVID will go away. So they're not going to bring it up. I will, though. So for all you canteeners out there, last Friday, almost actually a week ago from when last Friday, a week ago from when we're recording this, started coming down with a little flu-like symptoms. And I was like, yeah, better not go into work. So called up the health unit, and the health unit kind of freaked out and said, we need to get you and your wife in to take a COVID test on Monday. So we went to take a COVID test, and it was one of the antigen tests. We actually got the antigen and the PCR test done. Antigen is almost instant, and it's pretty accurate if you do have it. If you don't have it, it's about between 34 and 80% accurate. So anyway, so we tested positive for COVID. So the Lukester has COVID, and so does his wife. And the hype around it, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it feels like a flu that won't go away. Wife is having it a little rougher than I am, but I believe she'll be okay. And so I'm on quarantine for at least until November 13th, if the symptoms subside. So, yep. So we got 33% of the cup has got COVID now, which is higher than I think the worldwide numbers. 33% of a population. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, I got more to say on that, but nobody cares about COVID now. So I'll just keep my thoughts to myself. If you want to do something to make us feel better, you can order snafus, food bars, tarfus, and other sorted tales so we can give that money to the All Secure Foundation. But yeah, so that's basically it for me, man. COVID positive, up in the cup. Hope y'all don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can actually catch it from a podcast or, YouTube or whatever, but hey, that's going to do it for us this week. For the listeners out there, again, thanks a lot for listening. Hopefully, for me, especially the first couple of days, it was extremely mentally exhausting. Now I think I finally recovered from it. And like Luke said, just, trying to sit here and process a lot of this stuff. And I'm sure there'll be more to come throughout this weekend and to next week to keep the news and the high up in the ratings. So thanks to all the listeners out there. Thanks again to Carlton Zeus, www.carltonzeus.com. Hit him up on Apple Music. And for you YouTube viewers, your freemium content starts now.
Now, Pete, there's going to get more YouTube views.
You just said, fuck it. You just said, fuck it and punched out. Is that what it was? You were just like...
Oh, me? Oh, no. I instead of hitting mute, I hit stop camera.
He's like, mute. Boom. He's like, I'm out.
No. Gonna get YouTube views. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah,
I just have been kind of, I haven't been watching the news the past 2 days at all. Not at all.
Well, one, I'm going to move to Newsmax. They just got to get out of that infomercial type, producing or production or whatever. So I want to start watching that. But like my wife's been like depressed for the last couple. Today she's on it. She's out of the barrel race, but she was like depressed, and it was kind of like, I'm not depressed over the winner or loser. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a Trump supporter, and I'd want him to win, and hopefully he still has a shot. But at the end of the day, like I said, we go through goods and bads, and what I keep telling Josh, and hey, the Carters give you the Reagans. So yeah, I think with Biden, he's going to be a one-term president. I think if I am a solid GOP candidate, talk about Grinnell, hey, I think he stands a pretty good chance running against Kamala Harris because I don't think she's that great of a candidate. So, we would go through if Biden ends up being the winner, we'll go through this next 4 years. And fortunately for all of us, and this kind of goes back to the whole, you reap what you sow, and what I started off with. It's like financially, fortunately, my family's fine. We're going to eat. We're not going to lose anything. We're not going to lose any sleep. We're not losing a house. And we're very fortunate for that, because I know a lot of folks out there aren't in the same position. So you take the good with the bad, and, maybe you make some changes here and there as far as things that we do. So for us, we're fine. But there are a lot of folks out there that aren't going to be, and they're going to see the hit in their pocketbook, and they're going to see the hit in their wallet. So it's, I feel sorry for those folks. And, if they voted for those policies, they voted for those. It just goes back to, hey, tell me what you voted for. Man, that's all it takes. Tell me what you voted. What policy did you vote for? What policy did you agree with? And you can be articulate about it and defend that. I'm all for it. Everybody's got difference of opinions. I see with my sister's in-laws, a big Ford retiree, big union guy. I get it, man, because that's who's buttering his bread. So I have no issues with that. I'd vote left too if that was who was paying my retirement check. But a lot of folks like, okay, well, if Biden wins, he's now the president. So now what? Yeah. Do you know what you voted for?
So we're not calling it for anybody, but you think it's probably 90% Biden, right? At this point,
it's going to be tough, because I think what you're going to have happen here pretty soon, if not over the weekend, is you're going to have these secretaries of states and these counties go ahead and validate these ballots. And once that happens, it's done. It's over with. Whether he wins Arizona or not, which it looks like he's in good shape. I mean, there's only 90% reporting, and he's down by like 39,000 votes. So it was 97,000. So, I mean, he's in good shape here in Arizona. Who knows? It'll come down to, a couple thousand votes or whatever. He's not looking overly bad in Nevada, and he's got the whole, at least 10,000 people that don't even live in the state anymore that voted or whatever. But I think once you get to your Michigans, your Pennsylvanias, your Georgias, they're going to validate this stuff so fast, man, that once those votes hit the tally and they're counted and validated, it's going to be an act of God, man, to remove that stuff, because now you're really asking the Supreme Court, who's already shown that they don't want to get involved, it's a state issue. You're really asking them to get involved and potentially remove tens of thousands of ballots. And I just don't think they'll do it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting 4 years, that's for sure.
It's Friday. Everybody's mentally exhausted, and I think I'm gonna go pour me a drink. Got me a little E.H. Taylor small batch, and pour me a couple glasses and have a good weekend.
Wish I could. I'm not quite there yet, man. I feel
that's because where you're at too. You don't have the selection of where you're at from. It's not like you're back here. You can get it regularly, and you got a lot of bourbons. You're kind of limited in your selection over there.
Make runs for me right now.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to expand the palate.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you drinking? You drinking some Red Breast, some Jameson? What are you drinking this weekend?
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm not there feeling like I could really enjoy it.
That way. I told you, man, it kills the stuff.
Yeah, I know. I should try it. I got a couple bottles, just, the usual downstairs or upstairs. We'll see, man. Tomorrow, I feel better today, so we'll see.
All righty. How about you, Josh? Anything special?
No, I'll probably have some Old Scout single barrel rye or some New Riff single barrel rye.
Have you tried the Old Scout yet? Have you opened it up?
Yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. I'll send you. I'll get you a sample.
Okay, I haven't tried the rye. I tried the regular, and I wasn't a fan of it. It's like, but now it seems like they're coming out with a lot of their single barrels that might be a lot better.
Yeah. So this one's the single barrel cask strength.
Badass.
Yeah, man, it's pretty good. I picked it up from a store in Atlanta. It was only like $52. Single barrel cask strength. Rye, and I think it's like a 4.5 year rye. So it's not it's not an older rye, but dude, cask strength single barrel for $50. You can't beat that. I've got a 14-year coming at some point. I don't want to say the price because Nicole's going to listen to this.
Good call. So, it was on sale, baby.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, man, I'll get you a sample out of this.
And you haven't gotten your organic olive oil from me yet, have you?
I haven't. I got to check the front porch. I didn't see the door camera go off. We were out this afternoon. Neither Nicole nor I worked today, and so we went to run some errands, and we stopped looking at new cars for Nicole. So we were out a bit longer than we anticipated. Then you go look at the front porch and see if there's any boxes sitting on it.
Sounds good. All right, YouTubers, that's going to do it for this week. I'm going to go ahead and kick off my weekend a little bit early. Luke, I hope you and Michelle get a lot better. I'm telling you, go ahead and kick back a couple there. You'll probably get cured a little bit quicker. Thanks for everybody out there watching. As always, we continue to plug Carlton Zeus because it is a pretty big deal for an artist to give us some of his work and say, hey, you guys can use this thing royalty free. So definitely check him out, www.carltonzeus.com, or go to Apple Music and check him out. And hey, stay safe this weekend, stay safe next week, and keep your Canteen cups tightly secured.